Welcome to FZ Architecture. Today we are going to explore one of the most extraordinary buildings in architectural history, the Basilica of the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, designed by Antoni Gaudí. This is not only a church, it is a lifetime project, a spiritual monument, a structural experiment, and one of the most complex architectural works ever built. La Sagrada Familia in 2026, the project has reached a historic moment. The Tower of Jesus Christ, the central and tallest tower of the Basilica, has been completed and blessed by Pope Leo XIV, exactly 100 years after Gaudí's death. In this video, we will understand the Sagrada Familia from the point of view of an architect, its historical context, Gaudí's design philosophy, its relation with Catalan Modernism, its construction evolution, and the technical and aesthetic solutions that make this building unique. To understand the Sagrada Familia, we need to understand Barcelona at the end of the 19th century. The city was expanding beyond its medieval walls through the Example Plan, a new urban grid designed by Ildefons Cerda. This was a period of industrial growth, civic ambition, and cultural identity in Catalonia. In this context, Catalan Modernisme appeared as a local expression of the broader European Art Nouveau movement. But Modernisme was not only decorative, it was also political, cultural, and symbolic. It tried to create a new architecture rooted in craft, nature, religion, local identity, and modern construction. Gaudí belongs to this world, but he also goes beyond it. While Art Nouveau often used floral lines, ironwork, ceramics, and organic decoration, Gaudí transformed these ideas into architecture itself. In his work, nature was not just an ornament. Nature became structure, geometry, light, and space. It is important to clarify that the Sagrada Familia is not Art Deco. Art Deco appears later, especially in the 1920s and 1930s. With a more geometric, luxurious, and industrial language, the Sagrada Familia belongs mainly to Catalan Modernisme, with Gothic inspiration, organic geometry, religious symbolism, and a structural logic that is completely Gaudinian. The construction of the Sagrada Familia began in 1882, originally under architect Francisco de Paula del Villar. Gaudí took over the project in 1883 and completely transformed its direction. What started as a neo-Gothic church became something radically different. A basilica where architecture, sculpture, structure, theology, and urban presence are all part of the same idea. Gaudí dedicated the final years of his life almost entirely to this project. He knew he would not see it finished. His famous attitude was that his client, God, was not in a hurry. This explains the unusual character of the building. The Sagrada Familia is not simply designed as a finished object. It is designed as a process across generations. The Sagrada Familia is organized as a large basilica with a Latin cross plan, 5 naves, a transept, an apse, and 3 monumental façades. Each façade has a different theological and architectural meaning. The Nativity Façade, largely completed during Gaudí's lifetime, celebrates birth, nature, joy, and creation. The Passion Façade, built later, is more austere, dramatic, and angular. It represents suffering, sacrifice, and death. The Glory Façade, still part of the final construction phase, is intended to become the main entrance and to represent resurrection, judgment, and eternal life. Above the basilica, Gaudi planned 18 towers, 12 for the apostles, 4 for the evangelists, 1 for the Virgin Mary, and the tallest central tower for Jesus Christ. The central tower has now reached its full height of 172.5 meters. This vertical composition is essential. The building is designed as a symbolic mountain rising from the city of Barcelona. From an architectural point of view, one of the most fascinating aspects of the Sagrada Familia is that Gaudi did not treat structure and form as separate problems. He studied natural systems, trees, bones, shells, gravity, and hanging chains. Instead of forcing the building into a rigid historical style, he developed forms that follow structural behavior. Columns branch like trees, loads flow naturally toward the ground, vaults open like canopies, light enters through the structure rather than being added afterward. Gaudi used geometries such as hyperboloids, paraboloids, helicoids, and catenary arches. These forms are beautiful, but they are not arbitrary. They solve problems of light, structure, acoustics, and construction. Inside the basilica, the columns rise and divide into branches, creating the sensation of a forest. This is not only poetic, it is structural. The branching columns distribute the loads from the vaults and towers in a more fluid way. The result is a space that feels Gothic in ambition but completely modern in method. Where Gothic cathedrals use flying buttresses and pointed arches, Gaudi creates an internal structural forest. The verticality remains, but the technical language changes. Light is one of the most important materials in the Sagrada Familia. The interior is not dark and heavy. It is luminous, colored, and almost immaterial. The stained glass windows transform the space throughout the day. On one side, cooler blues and greens create a calm atmosphere. On the other, warmer reds, oranges, and yellows produce a more intense spiritual effect. This use of light connects the building with Gothic tradition, but again, Gaudi transforms it. Light is not only symbolic, it becomes spatial. It changes the perception of the columns, the vaults, and the entire volume. This diagram helps us understand one of the most important invisible materials in the Sagrada Familia, natural light. Gaudi did not design light as a decorative effect added at the end. He used light as an architectural tool. The position of the sun, the height of the nave, the geometry of the windows, and the color of the stained glass are all connected. On the left, we can see the light during the summer solstice at 6 bells in the morning. The sun enters with a low angle, crossing the interior horizontally and illuminating the lower parts of the nave. On the left, we can see the light during the summer solstice at 6 cows in the morning. The sun enters with a low angle, crossing the interior horizontally and illuminating the lower parts of the nave. On the right, during the winter solstice at 2 p.m., the sun is lower and the light enters deeper into the church. The warmer colors, yellow, orange, and red, create a more intense and dramatic atmosphere. This is why the interior of the Sagrada Familia changes throughout the day and throughout the year. The building is not static. It is a living space, transformed by the movement of the sun. The recent inauguration of the Tower of Jesus Christ emphasized this idea of light as both architecture and symbol. The tower is crowned by a large cross, and the ceremony used light, music, drones, and fireworks to connect Gaudi's vision with contemporary technology. The construction history of the Sagrada Familia is almost as important as the design itself. The building has survived changes of architects, political conflict, the Spanish Civil War, destruction of original models, technical challenges, and long periods of slow progress. For decades, construction depended on traditional craft, stone carving, plaster models, and manual interpretation of Gaudi's ideas. Today, the project combines historical documentation with digital modeling, parametric geometry, industrial prefabrication, and advanced construction logistics. This creates an important architectural question. How do we continue the work of a genius without simply imitating him? The current Sagrada Familia is not only Gaudi's building, it is also the result of generations of architects, engineers, sculptors, artisans, historians, and builders interpreting his incomplete vision. That is part of its beauty, but also part of the debate. The Sagrada Familia reminds us that architecture can be much more than construction. It can be memory, structure, light, symbolism, and time. Gaudi designed a building that was not only meant to be seen, but also to be experienced, studied, and continued by future generations. More than a century later, the basilica is still teaching us how architecture can connect nature, geometry, faith, and beauty in one single project. This was FZ Architecture. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.